The year is 2020. Circling high above the Earth is a new telescope, the Terrestrial Planet Finder. It has just made a discovery that will change our lives forever. More than 40 light years from Earth, it's detected the first habitable planet outside our solar system. Orbiting close to a red dwarf star is an extraordinary world. One half is in frozen darkness, the other in perpetual light. This is a land where the sun never sets. Strange heartbeats fill the air. Here, plants have become animals. And a lethal predator masses in the lagoons. Fantasy? Think again. Scientists believe we could discover a planet like this within the next 10 years. They are already preparing for what we may find. Some of the world's leading scientists have come to this specially designed lab to share their vision of what extraterrestrial life might be like and where in the universe we are most likely to find it. All the scientists are world leaders in the fields of astronomy and biology. And all share one vision, that we are not alone.
Do I think life is out there? Most definitely. It would be very difficult to believe that there isn't life in the universe. And the real question is how common or rare it is. And so we have to start looking.
This is the century for the discovery of extraterrestrial life. We have new programs looking for remote planets. We have new search strategies. It's an incredibly exciting time.
These scientists are breaking new ground in the search for extraterrestrial life.
Air recoveries we are presenting, the red dwarfs particularly, are real. That is to say, somewhere there could be one of these.
Yes.
They have already begun to investigate which planets are most likely to be habitable. In this series, their extraordinary visions have been brought to reality. But where does the search for extraterrestrial life begin? This is our galaxy, the Milky Way, home to 100 billion stars and at least as many planets. It's so vast that traveling at the speed of light, it would take 100,000 years to get from one end to the other. That's big. But there's 100 billion more galaxies like it in the universe. We only know of one planet that has life. Earth. It orbits our star, the Sun, at just the right distance for liquid water and oceans to form. Any further and water would freeze.
Any closer, and it would boil off. And from what we know about our own planet, water is essential for life.
We still do not know of any organism that can grow or reproduce without liquid water. So when we look at other planets, what are we going to look for? Liquid water. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out.
Within the next 10 years, the terrestrial planet finder will be launched into space. More powerful than any telescope before, it will search for Earth-sized planets orbiting around stars in our galaxy.
The idea that there might be life out there has been around for a long time. And what has changed is the realization that we have the technology now to answer the question.
Astronomers are already investigating which stars are most likely to support life. A prime target are small, dim stars called red dwarfs. They produce less than 1/10 of the light of our own star, the Sun.
The terrestrial planet finder will detect stars that are within 50 light years of the Earth. What's interesting is that about 80% of those stars are red dwarfs. So I believe the first potentially habitable planets will be detected around red dwarfs.
You are about to see a world astronomers believe could exist. "40 light years from Earth, a red dwarf star glows in the depths of space. And orbiting around it is an Earth-sized planet. It's close enough to its sun for liquid water to form on the surface, but there's a penalty for being this close. The world is locked in the star's gravitational pull, and it stopped rotating. One half will be in everlasting light, the other in permanent darkness." Planets orbiting red dwarfs were once thought to be uninhabitable. It was believed that their atmospheres would freeze out on the dark side and boil off on the light side. But in pioneering new research, these scientists decided to investigate and find out if the planet could support life.
What I do is to take that research further using an actual computer model of the atmosphere. So you could do some very basic tests to see under what conditions the atmosphere might freeze out, under what conditions it wouldn't.
The red dwarf planet modeled was different from anything that had been explored before. What they discovered will ultimately change the search for extraterrestrial life. A new planet is coming to life. Every detail was programmed into the model.
So here we had to stop the rotation of the planet. We used climate prediction models to break up all the atmospheric constituents, including chemical reactions and the formation of clouds and the amount of precipitation.
We then just let the model run.
So we basically produced for the first time weather on a planet around another star in the detail that weather is usually predicted here on Earth.
They had proved that the new planet could have an atmosphere and, critically, liquid water, the essential medium for life. They named it Aurelia. The big question was, could Aurelia support life? On its dark side is a vast frozen waste, a land of darkness. With no light and sub-zero temperatures, life would struggle to take hold here. On its light side, at the point where Aurelia is closest to its sun, the climate models predicted a giant cyclone that never dies. This is Aurelia's storm zone. Hurricanes rage across the land, rainfall is torrential, and it never stops. But between the storm zone and the dark side, the computer model predicted a belt where the climate would be warm and stable. And with oceans of water and land, scientists believed that life was not just possible, but probable.
What was so exciting when I first saw the models was I suddenly realized that, look, these temperatures are within the range that even trees could survive. At that point, we knew that we were in business to talk about Aurelia supporting higher forms of plant and animal life.
The scientists had identified a prime target in the search for extraterrestrial life. It could be a perfect model for the first habitable planet we discover. Aurelia, a living, breathing world. Rivers from the storm zone fan out across giant deltas, breathing life into a vast network of lagoons. A forest of strange fans reaches up towards the Red Dwarf star. A star that never moves and never sets. It's just one endless day. The fans creep slowly across the mud, and their heartbeats echo throughout the forest. Beneath the water, the killer is waking. Welcome to an alien world. A world that scientists believe could exist. Extraterrestrial has brought together leading biologists and biomechanists to conceive the life forms and ecology that could exist here. Every detail of these aliens has been worked out. Height, weight, shape, and interactions were all designed in minute detail.
But if we join all this up together, here's an ecology.
Nothing here is what it seems. These are the stinger fans. They might look like plants, but these are animals that have learnt how to capture sunlight. They drag themselves slowly across the mud, jostling for a prime position in the sun.
Their key job is to try and catch some sunlight. If there's something blocking them, then they're not going to survive. So instead of the tree way of doing things, which is to grow past the thing blocking them, they go for moving a bit to the left or to the right. So movement's vitally important for them.
They're Aurelia's extraordinary equivalent of plants. Reaching up more than 10 meters, their fans trap the sun's energy to produce sugars. Their primitive hearts pump the nutrients around their bodies. In this world where the sun never moves, competition for light is fierce. An animal that can creep along the ground and shade out its neighbors has come to dominate the landscape.
Well, the stinger fan looks genuinely alien, a mixture of an animal and a plant. But in fact, when we go to the Earth, there are things which are, in their own way, just as extraordinary. We can see examples in corals, we can see them in jellyfish, we can even see them in some mollusks, slug-like animals, effectively. And they are, in a sense, getting a free lunch. The photosynthesizers which they've captured are providing some of the nutrition which they require. It's what we call a symbiosis. So maybe the stinger fans, weird as they are actually not quite as alien as we first thought.
All life on Aurelia ultimately depends on the stinger fans. But they're not the only bizarre life forms that live here. Meet the gulp hog. It's Aurelia's largest carnivore. And this amphibious creature has had a lucky escape. Nervously, the mud pod makes for its burrow. The gulp hog returns to her clan. She is greeted by the dominant male. His dagger-like horns are a sign of his supremacy. The biologists have brought us a vision of life on Aurelia at 5 billion years old, 500 million years older than Earth. Could extraterrestrial life really be like this?
The gulp hog stands 4.5 meters high and weighs as much as a buffalo. There's no doubt that extraterrestrials will be unlike anything we've seen before. But how will they sense their environment? How will they move? Will they even be carbon-based, like life on Earth?
Based on our understanding of life on Earth, scientists are now beginning to explore these questions.
It makes a lot of sense for any moving life form to have all the senses near the front of the animal. So that's eyes, the ears, the smell sensors, the taste sensors near the front, because that's what is going to meet the environment first. And then it also makes sense to have the brain and the computing section fairly near the sensors. This long neck allows it to hold most of the body still and just move a part of the body so that it can use both eyes to lock onto the prey while keeping the rest very still. So it's going to be able to surprise a lot of the things it catches. On the other hand, the gut's always going to be fairly big, and it's worth having that in a nice stable place, somewhere near the legs, and the legs for an animal that's going to move fast need to be long and relatively light. So the gulp hog follows the rules for basic animal design.
The gulp hogs were designed by the biologists as hunters. They sense the ground for their prey.
They show some very interesting adaptations. In particular, what it turns out is that the front of the skull has these long teeth-like structures, but actually it pushes those into the ground, and those are extraordinarily sensitive to the vibration of their prey. The prey, of course, are mud pods.
The mud pods are safe for the moment. They are too far away to be detected. But the gulp hogs will travel enormous distances to find them. They'll need all their senses about them to survive. And one of the most important is vision.
What happens when you visit a planet like Aurelia? Will anybody actually be looking at you? Will they be using their eyes? Many animals evolve eyes, but why did all of them evolve eyes? Well, perhaps one of the key driving forces is to protect oneself from predators, but also to find prey. Eyes on Earth have evolved at least 7 times. And so if eyes do not evolve on Aurelia, frankly, I will be astounded.
Incredibly, extraterrestrial life could share the same solutions to the same problems that life confronts on Earth. It's called convergence, and it's changing the way biologists think about how evolution could occur on other planets.
How many ways are there to move? How many ways are there to swim? Well, actually, rather few. Walking across the ground or swimming through an ocean, there are strong constraints on what you can actually do. That's why organisms on this planet repeatedly return to the same solution. If it's true on Earth, it should be true everywhere.
Evolution will drive all life on Aurelia. And wherever there is life, there will be creatures that can shape the landscape and change it forever.
Wherever there is a biosphere, anywhere in the galaxy, there must be an ecology. On Aurelia, what we have is a keystone species, the central species. They're called mud pods.
Tirelessly bulldozing the Earth and felling stinger fans, they are Aurelia's great architects. Their dams have slowed the giant rivers. They've created a vast network of lagoons which are now a rich haven for alien life. With 6 legs and a strong shovel head, the mud pods are well designed for building dams.
The mud pod pushes mud around to improve its environment. And pushing requires a good amount of traction. If you have 6 legs, then you can push or pull while keeping 4 legs on the ground at the same time. So a 6-legged animal will be better at pushing than a 4-legged animal would be.
Their dams create new land for the ever-creeping forest, which in turn provides a continual harvest of fans for the mud pods to feed on.
The mud pod cuts stinger fangs with this claw, which is serrated and saw-like. But this nail, this adapted nail, is continually growing, just as beavers have continuously growing front teeth so that it can gnaw through a tree. and keep on gnawing through trees in years to come.
The haunting groans of the dying fans fill the air. But life on Aurelia faces a hidden danger, one that could destroy it all. Aurelia is bathed in perpetual light. It might seem the perfect place for life, but red dwarf stars are unstable.
The biggest problem with Aurelia is that virtually all red dwarf stars are flare stars. Flares occur very suddenly. They reach peak brightness within the matter of a few minutes, and they can cover the whole day side of the planet.
The star releases a massive burst of ultraviolet radiation. Within minutes, Aurelia will be bombarded by deadly ultraviolet rays. Out in the open, the mud pods are dangerously exposed. Their thin skin is no defense against the flare.
Any critters that live on Aurelia would have to have this emergency quick response to any kind of flare activity.
The gulphog has an early warning system, a third eye on the top of its head which senses the radiation. Quickly, they take shelter behind a fallen fan. The mud pods are slower to react. But when they feel the flare's searing rays, they hurry back to their burrows. One flashes its fin to warn the others of the danger. But one mud pod has been injured in a gulphog attack. The flare intensifies. The stingers close their fans to protect themselves. The injured mud pod is just seconds away from the safety of its burrow. But the flare is now at full force. Lethal rays irradiate the mud pod. It's cooked alive. Minutes later, the flare subsides. Life returns to the forest. Ultraviolet flares are deadly to carbon-based life. They break apart the carbon atoms that make up all living cells. But can we be sure that life on other planets will be carbon-based?
Carbon is the party animal of the periodic table, if you will, because it's the atom that most likes to hook up with other atoms to make complex compounds. And after all, perhaps the biggest achievement of carbon is this, DNA, a complex blueprint for life that underpins all of the living things on this planet, and that is built out of compounds that are made from carbon. When we say you know, life on other planets is probably going to be carbon-based, that isn't just lack of imagination. That's applying the physics and chemistry that we know to the worlds that we don't know.
And where there is life, it will invade every available niche, diversify, and compete.
Life everywhere will reproduce, mutate, followed by natural selection. It'll undergo the process that we call Darwinian evolution. That process, I think, is as universal as the laws of gravity and relativity.
There will be alien predators, the hunters and the hunted. Predation has driven much of evolution on Earth. On Aurelia, things will be no different.
A complex web of life has emerged, each life form dependent on another. On land, the gulphogs are the top predator. But the lagoons are the territory of a deadly life form, the hysteria. These tiny creatures may look harmless as they swirl through the water, scooping up microscopic life. But food has become scarce, and now the solitary hysteria undergo a terrifying transformation. It's a dangerous time to be near the lagoon. Millions of them come together. A ghostly form starts to take shape. The hysteria mass so tightly that they become one superorganism. Together, they are now a deadly killing machine. It can detect the slightest scent of prey. Moving as one, it can push out onto land and chase down its quarry. Its first victim, a scabian slug, is dissolved in seconds. But the superorganism needs something much bigger to satisfy its appetite. It detects a new scent. The swirling entity moves ever closer. Its next victim is within its grasp. A crashing fan distracts the gulphog. It races back to the clan. Hysteria retreats. Its time will come. The cries of dying fans echo across the lagoon. It's the moment the gulphogs have been waiting for. The sound of the falling fans can mean only one thing: mud pots. And it's a large colony. A guard flashes a warning with its fin. Panic spreads. The mud pods run for the safety of their burrows. But the gulp hogs will stop at nothing. The mud pod's only defense is its barbed tail. It's no match for these ruthless hunters. On alien planets, there will be predators and prey, evolution, and an ever-changing landscape. But for life to survive on Aurelia, the planet itself must be geologically active, replenishing its atmosphere and oceans, continually cycling water and carbon, the essential ingredients for all life as we know it. Scientists believe planets the size of Earth will remain active longest. It is why Aurelia is a prime target in our search for extraterrestrial life. But its red dwarf star makes it an even more promising prospect. The star that can destroy life can also nurture it.
Red dwarfs live not for a long time, but for an immense period of time. They live on and on and on, far beyond our sun. So it's difficult to avoid the conclusion that here is a crucible of life where experiments can continue for almost unimaginable periods of time.
Our own sun will live for 10 billion years. But Aurelia's sun could burn for 10 times longer. The scientists have given us a vision of life here at just 5 billion years old. With so much time for life to evolve, what could the future hold? Already, complex social systems have emerged. In its lifetime, the gulp hog only produces a small number of young. Together, the gulp hogs are stronger. They provide protection for individuals and share in raising their young. It's a very successful survival strategy that could see them advance right across the light side of the planet.
In these gulp hogs, I think there's a colossal opportunity for the evolution of intelligence. It's a remarkable adaptation because it can lend itself to problem solving in lots of different areas. So I'm quite convinced that life on other planets would be highly intelligent. And I think one route by which it might evolve might be through parental care. So you could have baby gulp hogs being taught by their parents where to find food and how to interact with the rest of the group. And in succeeding generations, they might become progressively more and more intelligent.
And with 100 billion years of evolution still to unfold in Aurelia, intelligence could reach extraordinary heights. And the creature that evolves the greatest intelligence will ultimately prevail. At the moment, the gulp hogs are leading the race. But in the lagoon, there's a killer that's so successful, it could wipe them out. The gulp hogs are relentless in their pursuit of the mud pods. One has found a den full of them. The arrival of the dominant male means trouble. The younger gulp hog stands his ground. It's a direct challenge to his authority. Their dagger-like horns can cause fatal injury. In the lagoon, hysteria makes its move. The baby backs away from the fighting. It's dangerously close to the water's edge. The hysteria mass inches closer. The dueling males are locked in combat. Burrowing into the gulp hog's foot, it releases a paralyzing poison. It dies in an instant. Swarming inside the young male's body, it starts to digest its flesh from the inside out. Hysteria multiplies and undergoes its final transformation. It emerges as a giant growth full of eggs. Another deadly generation of hysteria is released across the stinger forest. Life and death on an alien planet. The great cycle of life will continue here for billions of years. The scientists have modeled a new planet that could support life. It could be one of the first habitable worlds we discover. This groundbreaking work has changed the search strategy for extraterrestrial life.
Terrestrial Planet Finder, which is NASA's next big mission, would have ordinarily been able to only point to a few hundred stars like the Sun in our solar neighborhood. But with red dwarf planets like Aurelia being habitable, then now we have thousands of targets.
Finding extraterrestrial life is no longer a distant dream. We could find a world like Aurelia. In the next 10 years, Terrestrial Planet Finder will be launched. It will be able to peer into the atmospheres of distant planets and detect signs of life.
There's a lot of things coming together that makes this a very exciting time to be interested in life beyond the Earth. And for the first time, that question, is there life beyond the Earth, might move from a philosophical question to a scientific question.
In the next program, scientists will be investigating an even more extreme world. A moon with an oppressive and volatile atmosphere. Here, life will be pushed to new limits, and it will come in even stranger forms.